Welcome back. This is the Fantasy Farmer. We're at the Angela Whispering Hollow Farm. This will be episode 3. Recap, we've already planted the corn for the year. And we are starting on beans right now. And we're going to use our 950 Case IH planter. Planting these on 30-inch rows. And we'll get ahead and let the AI start this, and we'll talk and go from there. So at this point, the corn's done. The beans, we've fast forwarded it to May, which is a little bit more realistic for us where we're at here in Ohio, or southern Ohio. The ground's the clay ground. So we're going to work on these beans, plant a few fields, and then we are going to start mowing hay. Which is somewhat realistic. As long as it's not too wet, we're able to mow hay pretty early here in Ohio, or in southern Ohio. If you can get it mowed early, you can get those, and it rains somewhat throughout the summer, we can get the 3 cuttings. So we'll do these beans. Our AI guy is screwed up again. I think it's where we put and plowed in the ends of everything. I think that's the reason why the AI guy is screwed up. Looks like to me. But for right now, we're going to use the AI and let him go and see what he can do. And then we'll move right along. We'll get these beans planted, and once the beans planted, all the crops will be in. We'll have to spray once we start moving forward into June. We'll have to get everything else sprayed. We did spray around some of the edges that was not chisel plowed earlier, so we did spray around some of that where we had some weed growth on it. And there again, I don't know what the AI guy, he's doing a completely pinwheel on this one. But in this field right here, if you notice, this has all been added. This field was not near this big when we started. Went in there and chiseled, and it's still not perfect. I think I'm going to have to go back in and chisel a little bit more and get it a little bit, we can get some more ground out of here. Once we get through this first seeding and the first harvest, next year it should plant a lot better. But for some reason, I still believe it's just where we've added to the fields. So at this point, since we're running on 30-inch rows for beans, we'd be putting probably 110 pounds to the acre on that. If we were running with a regular drill and good ground, we'd be putting 150 pounds to the acre of beans. Or running splitters on this. So these would be coming out with 15-inch rows. And that's what most of the guys are doing now, especially in my neck of the woods. They're not using air seeders or drills even for beans. The smaller guys are still using some drills here and there, no-till mostly. But most of the guys are using, if you're using a 16-row corn planter, you got, with the splitters and all, it's a 1631, so you're putting that 15-inch row in the middle. This field here won't take us very long because it's a pretty small field. I believe it was only a couple acres. Hope you're enjoying the series so far. The first 2 episodes has been kind of long. This one here will be shorter, and we'll get shorter until we get to harvest a little bit. I know you don't want to hear me talk and talk and talk and talk. Get that side view again. There again, I can't stress how much I love this tractor. I just like this whole setup. And with us planting here at the 1st of May, like I said, we are using 2-day months, so we'll go until May 15th, and then the 15th will be the break. And that'll be our second part. So we'll have all the beans done by the 15th of May, which, I mean, it can be done here, but we're playing a game, so we're going to get what we can get done here. and then we'll start mowing hay and getting that done. And then here in another couple months, wheat will be ready to take off. We'll combine the wheat, bale straw, and then after that, silage will be ready to start taking some silage off. We'll take some silage off, and then the corn and bean harvest will start for the fall. One thing about planting beans is if you go over the end rows, you don't really care about if you got a double row or something, because the combine don't care. So it's not like you're trying to run a direct head and try to keep up with that head that you need to be. I always kind of enjoyed planting beans because you don't have to pay near as much attention as when you're planting with corn. If you can tell by the sounds, I'm not in no fancy area. We're recording this in the front room of my house. We have some animals running around and some outside noise, and so it's not a pristine. You're getting a working man's recording. We're not fancy, and I guess I'm not trying to impress anybody yet. But I hope everybody does enjoy these videos. I enjoy making them. This is our third one. We have several coming up on this. We're going to try to do 2 or 3 a week out of this series for the next couple months or so. And before we wrap it up, we are going to start another series here pretty soon on something else. So they'll be running 2 series at a time, and then I've got a bunch of tutorials coming out. They'll be just a minute or 2 long, and you'll be able to watch those, and they'll give you some hints on farming, realistic, or things that you can do to the map that'll make your life a little easier or make it look a little bit better. I know that one of the biggest things that I do when I start a map, I basically get rid of all the buildings and generally the house and everything, because I like to do my own layout and do my own buildings and how I like it. And if you see a lot that I'll do some drive-through buildings, I like the drive-through buildings and even in real life, especially for semis. It's easier to pull a semi through a drive-through building like that and pull it out the other side instead of having to worry about backing it in. So this first field is done. We're going to cut across country here and get this second one done. You kind of missed the spot there. We'll fold her up and get ready to move to the next one. And if we go here to the PDA, you can see we're going to go down here to field 26 next. The roads on this farm are not very good, so you're landlocked with everything. If you see the bush hog lines, I went and bush hogged out all the shrubbery and everything here between off screen to kind of clean that up a little bit. This fall I'll come through and bush hog all the grass down. And generally in typical, most of the guys will do that to kind of keep their fields in betweens clean. So we're in our second bean field. There again, we'll let Mr. AI take care of it. Watch him do his thing. There again, he does a wild way is all I know. This is kind of interesting. If you look to the left in the tree area, there's rocks, and that's kind of true to form where we're at, where the hollers and some of that is. You do get that rocks, and a lot of those rocks are from the farmers 100 years ago cleaning these fields, and through those rocks somewhere, you can still find some of these farms, and you go some areas and there's big piles of rocks right outside the field from where they've piled them up for the last 50 years or 100 years. A lot of it's sandstone where we're at, so it's softer. And the sandstone, some of it can be pretty large. A lot of it's small, but a lot of it can be pretty good size. That red bush right there, that's what we went and bush hogged around and knocked most of them around. Tried to get them around most of the fields, and it did a pretty good job on that. Of course, I think this bush hog is a little 6-foot bush hog on a pretty good sized tractor. I'm going to have to get a bat wing to do everything else on a bigger scale, but we got to watch the money here. I like to know how everybody else likes to plant their beans on Farm Sim. Are you using the drills, or are you using the corn planter setup where you're planting them through the boxes? Or there's so many different options. I wish they would have got the no-till drills, the New Holland or the Great Plains and the Case IH no-till drills sent over for soybeans. Because if we had those, we would probably be using that right now. And even like the 5100s, the drills, and the John Deere version of that, neither one of those are set for beans either. But we used it to plant our wheat. We'll see what our money situation is after this first season. If we have a good season, we'll probably go maybe to the 16-row Kinsey planter with the splitters, and I think we've got a track. I think our 7240 will pull it. Then we'll change heads on our combine from a 6-row to an 8-row. That'll let us plan a little faster, plus it'll be we can get a little bit more done on the harvest, a little faster at least. After we get this field done, we're going to go ahead and switch back over to hay. We're going to get some hay mowed, and we'll round bale it. Because right now that's what we're feeding our cattle. We'll start making TMR silage and hay mix coming up here really at the end of August, 1st of September. We should have enough TMR to last us for the year, or enough silage to last us after we get that chopped. I think the unusual thing on this tractor still is the tractor gets dirty, really, really dirty, except for the front tires. That one's the one that baffles me, how clean the front tires stay. Looks like the rims are dirty, but the tire itself is really clean. I think one thing neat about this farm right here, if you look, there's not really much underbrush. Some of it's because I've cut a lot of it out, but most generally there's not a lot of underbrush. So generally farms like that, you will get some underbrush on those. And these trees are pretty good size. A lot of those guys, those trees would have been cut a long time ago, and they'd be farming a lot more of this ground. So I decided to leave them, and we'll just leave them. They look pretty good. But especially after the turn of the century and up into the 20s and 30s, where they were trying to get as much ground as they could, they would have went in there and more than likely cleaned a lot of that out. These trees, the way they look here, a little bit more aesthetically. They look like they're almost in lines. You'd have a hardwoods here to the left, and then the conifers to the right, or to the front and to the right. They almost look like they were planning to be cut in a plantation for pulpwood or something. They look like longleaf pine, or those long pole pine or something like that. But the red bushes there is the ones that were annoying. I really bush hogged a bunch of that down. I see there's a bunch over here still. Some of them I couldn't get to because having to drive through the fields. We're a third of the way through January right now, and planting will be right around the corner for a lot of the farmers throughout the country. I know some places start in March. You go down south, and they're starting early. We'll see what this weather does here, and it says what the Ohio farmers were able to do. We've had some wet springs here in the last few years, so they've not been able to get a lot done real fast or real early. As for Europe, I don't know their planting schedules. I believe they're opposite of us. So I know Australia is. If you ever watch any of the Australian YouTube videos for regular farming, they got some massive ground that they cover down there also. And even if you look at South America with Brazil with soybeans and how much they grow, and there's some large farms in Brazil. Think about the United States as the open plains, as the big farms here, but there's some big farms everywhere else. Ukraine's got some pretty sizable farms. Anywhere where you got vast amounts of land. Russia. I believe the largest dairy now is in China. It's massive amounts, and they're milking massive amounts of cows, and it would dwarf anything that we have here in the United States in acreage wise and how many they're milking. For all you guys out there, you guys like playing with the older equipment or the newer equipment, or a little mix of each. Personally, I like all the new stuff, but I do like the old stuff. I like a little bit of, especially a lot of the older tractors. Equipment-wise, I just soon have the modern equipment. Tractor-wise, I like the looks of some of the older tractors. Feasibility, even today, I mean, you look at that 7,000 and 8,000 series of the Case IHs. Those are all pre-def tractors, and people don't want to mess with def right now on the tractors, having to put that fluid in there, and so a lot of those tractors the guys are buying them up pretty good. Same way with the John Deeres, the 8,000 series are starting to sell back. I mean, they've been selling high for the last few years since COVID, but they've ramped back up. This tractor's moving along pretty good, 11 mile an hour. That's pretty good for that planter. There again, he's using GPS on this because we're not using the markers. Once we get this field done, we'll take this tractor back up and we'll finish what beans we got off screen, and but we'll start mowing some hay this time, and we'll get the hay mowed today, and then we'll finish out this episode and start with episode 4 here in another few days. I like to think it's like multitasking, and in real life there's a lot of times you're planting and you're mowing hay at the same time, just to get the stuff done. There's not a lot of leeway, especially with planting. You need to just get it in there, and hay, you got some time, but the longer you let it not mowed, and it a little bit more detrimental in the hay, but it's also on your crop, on how many times you're going to get cut. A lot of the alfalfa guys, they'll get 4 cuttings on a really good alfalfa and good ground. Best I do is 3. That's with an alfalfa orchard grass clover mix up here in the hills, and it would allow you, if you got it in early, like I said, by the middle of May, and you had good weather all through the summer, you could get your 3 cuttings pretty easy. If you see this planter, it does have the fertilizer setting. We wouldn't be putting fertilizer on at the same time with these beans. We'd come back in with a spreader and either pre-spread it or spread it after the fact. Generally, I went in and spread before we even planted, so then that planter's pushing it through when you're going through it. This tractor's going to need a bath. It was clean when we started on these beans. Have to blow out the air filters, it looks like, as dusty as it is. And if you see the boxes on the back, that's where all the little boxes where all the seed goes. And if you've ever filled a planter like that, you know it is it's a kind of a long process flipping up all those lids and start dumping your bags in there, especially if we was putting beans in there. They don't hold a lot, but when we were planting, you could plant about I think it's 3.3 acres to a bag, so you've got at least 12, a little over 12 bags right there, so 3.3 times 12, that tells you pretty much what you're planting without having to refill it. Beans is a lot worse because you're planting 80, 100, 110 to the acre, and you got to fill that a lot. We'll just imagine Mr. AI is doing it. He likes the work, it looks like. So this field, he's going to wrap this little piece up here. And then we're going to take this tractor back, and we'll get us a tractor and get a disc bind on it and get some hay mowed. There he is. I know a lot of the guys on here on YouTube don't have that screen to the left. It's just easier for me to keep it up there. I hope it don't bother you too much. There again, like I said, I'm not too fancy, so we're going to cut across country here. Go back in and take this tractor back, and let's get us a disc bind out. Go in first person, but the problem is we turn around backwards. There we go. bad about this view is you can't really see to the side very good, and in real life you can usually see to the side a little bit better than that. We're going to cut through the woods here. See some of these rocks. Hope we don't tear anything up. I guess we need to doze us a road down through there. Get back up here on our driveway. Pretty good grade because the tractor's not moving up there very fast. And then we got to decide what tractor we're going to use to run the disc bind. We'll go ahead and pull over here by the tractor shed. We'll go ahead and get in here and see what we got. So we've got the 656. So we're dualed up on a lot of everything. We got the this 1066, the 5088. So probably should have took the duals off of one of these. But for the time being, I think we've got the 86 series out here on the sprayer. We'll just get back out here and get it. And then we'll take the duals off of the 5088 for anything further that we're going to do. So we've got a New Holland, I think it's a 313. It is, yes, a 313. So that's a 13-foot new series. I ran a 411, which was an 11-foot, which is actually, it was actually a 10.5-foot cut is what it was. They're usually a half-foot shorter than what the cut says. But these disc binds have just made it so much easier to mow hay now. Where prior we were using either a sickle bar or a mower conditioner, which had just a sickle on it. The problem with that is it would sometimes, if the hay was tougher, it would not quite cut quite right. There again, we're going to let our AI guy do this. And then we'll probably go ahead and go get a tedder. We're going to tedder this since we're in May, because we're going to want this done as dry as fast as we can get it. But right during this episode, we're just going to get her mowed. What's nice about these is, and if you look at the wings in the back, you can flare those out so you can lay that crop down pretty wide. And then once we run that tedder over there, it'll really spread it out. The big change is just time of, it used to be 4 or 5 days before you could mow, or before you could bale, even when it was really, really hot. And now you're getting into 3-day time. That's the goal. Bale at 3 days. The tethering really helps for our weather here, and then we'll rake it. And there's a lot of different rakes and tethers that we could use. I like using the bigger stuff on some of these bigger series because you can cover some ground, but we're going to use we're going to use a relatively small tedder and a relatively small rake. The rake that I'm using is one that I had in real life. I don't know what he's doing here. Let's just do it ourselves for a minute. So yeah, the rake that I had was a 256 New Holland, and it was what they call those a basket rake is what we'll be doing. It's just you're basically doing a single side, and this guy here is I don't know there again if it was where we made the field ourselves or what, but it has messed him up. So we'll just go through here ourselves and cut this edge row. Generally, we would have ran this the other way. We would have drove on the bad side, because usually by the woods the hay is not near as much, and you got sticks and everything else that's fell in it. So normally we would have wanted to do it the other way. I know I think it's easier to do this in real life than it is with a controller or a steering wheel. I use both, so the nice thing about the disc binds is it gives you a really good cut, and you're mowing a lot faster. Also, you can mow at a pretty good size speed with these, and they're very, very durable. They have a little square, well, it's a rectangle blade that they have on them, and they stay sharp for a long time unless you're hitting rocks and stuff. But generally, most of the guys that's got the hay fields or who's doing a lot of hay, a lot of those fields have been cleaned for years. That kind of keeps them from getting all tore up, and that's what we try to do. So our AI guy should be turning the other way and going the opposite way, but I don't know what he is doing. We'll just kind of let him play around, I guess. Because it's really not ideal to keep running over your crop. But we'll see what he does here, and we'll call him a rookie farmer in there. What's kind of neat about the game too is you see this spot to the right, this little bare spot. It does happen in real life. You'll get some crappy spots here and there. It just happens in real life. Yeah, I rightly don't know what he's doing, but he's not going to go anyway that way. So we'll just stop him and do it ourselves for a little bit. He should be going this way anyway, because that keeps you from running over what you've already what you haven't mowed yet. There again, when you're mowing hay, it's according to how you want to do it. I always did 3 or 4 rounds around the outside and then went back and forth, and then you tether that way kind of too. Where it gets a little tricky is when you're trying to rake it, because you don't want to keep running over where you're raked at. So you kind of got to figure out how you're going to do that when you rake it. But these New Holland disc binds you probably see more New Holland disc binds and John Deere disc binds than any of them. Case IH has one, and the Case IH and the New Holland are almost identical, being that they're the same company. That's how you miss it right there. We'll have to come back and clean that one up. The thing with the disc binds, they did take a little bit more power, because you are turning all those, where the sickles you didn't used to have that much power. Well, let's see what he can do now. We thought we'd given him a good lesson. We'll see. I would just say the reason why he's running in the way he's running in the crop is that's just how it's programmed in. It's kind of a due diligent thing, I would say. He should run a couple more times around. But just like down here on this corner where I missed that corner, that does happen. Sometimes you do have to come back and get it cleaned up. It looks like he might clean it up for us. Nope. I thought he was going to. I really don't know what he's doing. Thought he was going to drop it there for a second, but he is. Let's just watch him and see what he does. There again, he might be messed up from where we chiseled this and made this field a lot bigger. There was a pretty good little bit of ground we were able to get out of this. I would say this 986 we're driving here has got about 7,500 hours on it. How much smoke she's blowing. There again, I don't know. Rather don't know what he's doing. But we will clean this up right here real fast. I think we'll just finish mowing this outside edge and ourselves, and then we'll let him go. I always enjoyed mowing hay. Get that smell that smells good, and when you're using a disc bind, it's even more fun, because if you miss a part, you can go right back over it without it getting clogged up, where with sickle bar you had to be real careful about that because it would clog up on you. I know in Europe they're using a lot of non-conditioning mowers, which we still do a lot here with those, but I think Europe it's really popular, and that and the self-propelled, the big crone units, you'll see them in Europe probably more so than what you do here. Yeah, let's just go ahead and clean this thing up while we're down here. And the cut you see, that's a pretty true form cut. I had mine set at 4 inches, so you're leaving 4 inches. You don't want to get much. Some guys leave it at 6. I always did 4. It's according to what time of the year too. Especially if there was a lot of, if the ground was wet underneath, we took it out a little bit closer And then if you're going to reseed, you'll usually take her down, so it's easier to get in there. And if you're going to spray it or if you're going to till it, you don't have that much cover still to do. So we'll run one more lap, and then we'll see if we'll let him go and see what happens with him. Notice to the right's our storage grain bins. Got 3. We're going to put wheat in one, beans in one, and corn in the other. Hopefully we've got enough. And now we're in the era that's really changed. Used to be a lot of guys stored their grain, but a lot of their smaller guys had to sell it right when they were taking it out. And now you're getting to a point where the guys storing grain is a lot more because they're getting a lot better price for it. A lot of the guys aren't selling their corn until February. So you're getting a contract price. Sometimes it could be a good bit of change in profit. So that's why the amount of silage or the amount of grain bins are going up. There again, there's a lot of different companies doing that you'll see GSI and Superior, Brock. And those bins have just a big fan on it that blows air in there. We would want to take that crop where it's not overly wet, so then we're not having to dry it per se. We want to keep blowing air, and that air will dry it out for what we need it to do. So let's see if he'll do anything now on his own. We'll change this down to up and down, and let's see where he goes. This could be interesting. Yeah, looks like he's going to start on the short end, which generally you never start on the short end. But there again, this is our rookie. This is our rookie guy. We're just training him. I know a lot of you guys like to get out there and run all this equipment and do everything yourself, and I enjoy that somewhat. But when we're sitting here talking and stuff, it's just easier to let them kind of go at it. When we get in the harvest, I'll let the combine go and have AI do it, and I'll run the grain buggy and the trucks and the gravity wagons to keep them full. But even with just this 6 row head that we're going to be running on our combine, we'll still be going through some acreage pretty fast. When we get into silage, it'll be even a faster process because the wagons we've got do not hold a lot. There again, we're going to kind of do it somewhat realistic. We're going to run 4 wagons. The problem is I can only run 1 wagon at a time, so we'll let AI do the chopping and start filling up wagons, and then we'll keep a couple wagons filled all the time, and I'll run them up here to the silo. And it will not be, generally you'd have 2 or 3 guys running for you, so because he'll be filling those wagons up pretty fast. But right now, since it's just myself, I'll just we'll probably fill 2 or 3 of them up and then start running them and then come back. And but we'll let the AI do that. Like I said, that'll be sometime at the end of August is when we will start chopping silage. And that's kind of true to form here. End of August, in September. It's just that first dimple stage of the corn is when you want to get that silage harvested to get the best feed value out of it. You don't want it too wet and you don't want it too dry, especially if you're putting them in pits where you can get them compacted down, get the air out of them, get them covered, and that makes your best silage. Same way if we were mowing haylage here, we'd be mowing this hay down, and usually we would tether it and let it set until the next day, and then we'd rake it and then run for haylage, because you don't want it way too wet where it's just so much juice coming out of it, because then it doesn't ferment right. But the way he's cutting this, generally what we would have done is we would have went and started on the long end and come down through. Because now he's making a lot of these little shortcuts here. And he's kind of in an angle. I think what we'll do, we'll let him do that. We'll walk back over here to the farm, and I think we'll go ahead and get our tether out, and we'll have him ready over here. If you look at that field, it was 6-acre field, and we probably got another acre by extending it the way we did. So we're going to get the 656 out. We'll run it on the tether. And those 56 series is the series that the 66 series replaced, and the 56 series was short-lived. It was only for a few years, and it replaced the 06 series, which the 06s, the 706s, and the 806s and the 1206s were by far the most popular. I had a couple 706s and a 1066. And of course the 1066 was a black stripe. That was the last year they made it. That would have been in 76. And then the two 706s I had, I think they were 63 and 64, somewhere around in there. I had a gas one, and then I had a diesel. The diesel was with the German diesel, which the German diesel at the time, those were a far superior engine than the regular diesel engine that they had, which I believe must have been an international diesel. So they technically put three different engines in those. Not at one time, of course, but the gas one I had, I used it to grind feed, and you know, it for only the size of the tractor, it did use a lot of gas just grinding feed. I don't know if I'd want to go out and do a lot of field work with it today. But most all those old timers, that's all they used was gas tractors. So I'm just going to go ahead and let him finish this, and we'll wrap up this episode today. And I know you guys you don't want to sit here and watch this thing go back and forth too much. When we start the next episode, which will be episode 4, we'll start tethering. We'll have all the beans planted, and we're going to get the tethering done, rake done, and we'll start baling some hay. This is the Fantasy Farmer. You guys have a good night. Remember, farm until you're broke.